You are now watching Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's poppin' peeps? Welcome back to the channel. Lesage here. Today we are going to be covering over my personal top 10 post-rotation deck lists. Yep, you heard it here first. We are done with all the tag teams. We're done with ADP. We're done with all that stuff. We are here to cover my top 10. I have a lot of experience playing in post-rotation formats. I mean, I've been playing Pokemon since 2005, so I've seen my fair share of new formats that come when August, September hits. Whether there's a rotation, no rotation, I'm bringing you some of the best deck lists available on YouTube. That being said, if you haven't already, click that like button if you like seeing the deck list. Subscribe to the channel if you want to help me out. We are so close to getting to our next goal of 7,500. We're about 2,000 peeps away. We can make that happen. It's a stretch goal, but we're going to make that happen. That's the goal here on this channel. Leave a comment below letting me know what your favorite post-rotation deck is. There's a lot of ground to cover here, so on this channel from now on, we're going to be post-rotation content. No more Team Up to Evolving Skies. Post-rotation onward. Let's get it. Let's jump into our number 10 spot. Jumping into our number 10 spot, we got Tornadus VMAX with Umbreon VMAX. This is just kind of like a single strike beatdown deck, and it's heavily inspired by Kenny Pacala, who was able to make top 16 at the Full Grip 1K in real life event. Now, the goal of this deck is pretty simple. You're going to be using Umbreon VMAX, similar to Lycanroc GX of the past, to bring up your opponent's Pokemon with its ability. You also have it being a single strike Pokemon, so you could power it up in matchups where you might want to attack with a dark type Pokemon. Read that as, if you're attacking against a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, you'd probably rather attack with an Umbreon VMAX than a hit with a Tornadus VMAX. Tornadus VMAX is just an incredibly powerful Pokemon that you could power up with powerful colorless energy and do extra damage with single strike energy. And I mean, this deck just really lives and breathes through the single strike mechanic. You got Houndoom with single strike roar, single strike energy, earn a vitality to get your energies back, discard your single strike cards with Tower of Darkness. I mean, I could go on and on. This deck is actually pretty decent. If you haven't got a chance to play with it at all, I'd give it a try. Now, I do want to note about these decks in all the like lower spots, or even in the upper spots. This metagame is brand new. And when I'm recording this video, it hasn't even officially been rotation. So players have not had too many opportunities to play in these events. That being said, I think this is a great deck choice going forward. If you haven't picked up the cards already, totally recommend it. Jumping into our number 9 spot, we have Rayquaza VMAX. Now, this is a deck that a lot of players hyped up, myself included. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like one of those peeps that likes riding the hype train for decks. I don't want people to spend money. I don't want anything like that. I'm like, yo, this new card's coming out. It's gonna be awesome. Then I play with it and I'm like, you wanna know what? This card is not what I thought it was. I found that out the first time that I played Rayquaza VMAX in our Team Up to Evolving Skies format. How the format kind of tones itself down in our post-rotation formats, and this deck doesn't really lose a lot because it's constructed out of newer cards. I think that it's in a much better position in this format. So the whole goal here is to go max burst for a lot of lightning energies. You get those lightning energies with Flaffy and with Rose, and that's really where you're at. You're just going to kind of repeat attack for a lot of damage. And then you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to air balloon or switch, get those energies back with Dynamotor with Flaffy, and do it again. This deck's constructed to just kind of be ultra consistent. Even though that it's ultra consistent, sometimes it's going to not feel like that. But I think this is a very great way to play Rayquaza. And if you did pick up some of those cards and you were looking for a great way to play this list, I think this list can definitely handle a decent portion of the metagame. I am slightly worried about inconsistency issues, but that's something that we're going to tackle on this channel over time. I'm sure Ray will have its chance to shine after I fine-tune this list over the next few weeks. So, number 9, I think this deck's sick. Jumping into our number 8 spot, we have Leafeon VMAX with Inteleon Quick Shooting. Now, this is a deck that I never really would have thought would have taken off. I talked a little bit about this when I recorded Leafeon VMAX Absol in the Team Up to Evolving Skies formats, and I was like, oh, I think this deck would be very good with Inteleon because you could handpick out your Galar Mine. Little did I know that that same week that this deck would make top 8 at the Pokemon Online Global Championships. Now, I don't want to be like I created this deck or anything like that. I think the combo is right there in front of us with Shady Dealings and Quick Shooting, and I mean, you could pretty much put Inteleon with any VMAX deck and it would probably be okay. This seems like it's a very well-built version of that deck for post-rotation, where you're able to use Grass Knots, doing 60 times the amount of retreat cost that your opponent has in their active spot. And then you could go Galar Mine, increase it, and use Tool Jammer to turn off their their air balloon. So overall, I think this deck's really good. You could swing for 240 against most things. The biggest issue I find is that there's no tag teams in this format, so you can't necessarily abuse things or even play Absol. But this is a deck that just seems very good, or reliant on the top decks having a decent bit of retreat cost. With no Chaotic Swell in format anymore, Galar Mine has a new chance to shine. Sure, there's things that could happen or could get around things, but right now I feel like Leafeon VMAX is in a good spot, and I almost feel like this deck is way too play slowly. So it's lowly placed on this list right now, but it has time to grow and flourish and blossom into a beautiful Tier 1 archetype. Jumping into our number 7 spot, we see the newcomer of Sylveon VMAX and a familiar face of Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and Galarian Moltres V. Now, this deck is inspired by Frank Perchik's top finish at the Full Grips 1K. I think he fell a little bit short of making the top 8, but I think Frank is one of those excellent deck builders in our community, and I really want to give him a shout out here. So shout out to Frank. That being said, Sylveon VMAX focusing on the different typed Pokemon you have on your bench. So when you're having a fighting type, a water type, a dark type, a metal type in the Galarian Meowth. To anyone who's wondering, because I'm sure I'm probably going to get a bunch of things, why is Galarian Meowth played in this deck? First and foremost, you need different typed Pokemon to play with the Sylveon VMAX. Second off, it allows you to pitch energies out of your hand for Galarian Moltres V, to pitch cards out of your hand to draw more cards for Karina's Focus, and you can also draw more cards with Crobat V. Late game, you could pitch cards out of your hand that you just don't need in case you're worried about your opponent moneying you, to thin your deck out of just poor resources or anything else like that, things just that aren't going to matter. That being said, Galarian Meowth is not going to find a Galarian Berserker to evolve into, but it does fit the bill of being a different type Pokemon. So doing a decent bit of damage for being a Rapid Strike Pokemon, hitting hard, Psychic type, you got a Fighting type Pokemon. Like, I like that there's different types in this deck, and giving yourself options against other matchups. So even if you are playing against a deck that would just absolutely smoke a Sylveon VMAX for weakness, you're like, you want to know what? I'm a Galarian Moltres Urshifu deck now. And that seems totally cool to me. So give this deck a whirl if you want to take things a little bit on the wild side. I think Sylveon VMAX is underrated right now, seems very good, and it will probably get some top placement soon. I don't see a reason why it would not. Jumping into our number 6 spot, we got Suicune V with Ludicolo. Now, this is kind of my placeholder deck, because I think it could go a lot of ways. I think that Ludicolo, with its enthusiastic dance ability, for those of you who don't know or just have been waiting for post-rotation, let me run it back through you. Ludicolo allows you, when you play it down from your hand, to evolve one of your Pokemon. So you're evolving Stage 1 Lombre into the Stage 2 Ludicolo. Yes, I know it is a Stage 2 Pokemon. You can do an additional 100 damage. That allows your Blizzard Rondo to hit for a lot of damage and get very close to knocking out those VMAX Pokemon. If you're a few damage counters short, you got access to Zigzagoon. I think there's a lot of cool things that you could do with this deck just by using Suicune and drawing cards and being a relatively consistent deck and fast and aggressive and Melanie and Raihan. It seems like this deck kind of has it all going on. When I say that this is my placeholder deck, I think Suicune is just a number 6 deck, and or Ludicolo is a number 6 kind of deck. They can grow with the metagame for sure, but we saw at the POG Pokemon Online Global Championships that there was Suicune Inteleon decks or Suicune Ice Rider decks. We've seen Ludicolo Zacian decks. I think that there's just these are two very strong cards that work together in this list for this purpose. But we might see those two kind of get changed up the same way that we originally saw Inteleon engines with Ice Rider, and now they're everywhere. We might see Ludicolo decks just kind of pop up with a lot of big basics, as I like to call them, or Suicune in kind of a plethora of water-type decks. So overall, this deck is just kind of working as build up your bench, do a lot of damage Blizzard Rondo, Ludicolo fits that fodder of being on your bench and hitting for a lot of damage with Enthusiastic Dance. We'll see how these decks evolve, but right now I think it seems really good. Jumping into our number 5 spot, we see a familiar face with Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX and Inteleon. Now, we do have the new tech of Suicune V, and I mean, we have seen versions of this deck that in the Pokemon Online Global Championships that are basically half Suicune, half Ice Rider. So we might have to play around with those counts a little bit, but I went with what I'm familiar with, and I did play this deck for the Players' Cup Invitational fairly recently. I think that this is the type of deck that's just water beatdown, and then you could grab things with Shady Dealings, Drizzile, quick shooting Inteleon to get those extra damage counters wherever necessary. And I am a huge fan of Path to the Peak. I think Path to the Peak can get through a lot of stuff, so here at Zach Lesage PTCG, the channel, we are stands of Path to the Peak. Stop your opponent in their tracks. Why not, right? So it is one of those things. This deck is just Melanie, Riot of the High King, or you're trying to get that Oko, Melanie, Max Lance. Quick shooting makes the deck very interesting. I have seen versions of this deck that do play Metacham V. I think Metacham V can be really good, especially with all the Sobbles and Drizzile seeing play, and that's something that this deck might eventually evolve into. I thought that Metacham V would just be much more played upon release, but now that we're having a little bit more time with it, it seems like it's waiting for the perfect cards to come out first. So right now, I think this is a great choice. If you've been playing Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX in our kind of standard team up to Evolving Skies format, you're probably really going to enjoy this deck. Doesn't really lose anything. It looks almost exactly the same, and that's a really good thing when it comes to a post-rotation deck. Having familiarity and having its kind of toolbox of cards that it plays in its deck seems like an absolute must. So this deck it just seems very good. Jumping into our number 4 spot, we see a deck that's been riding the top tables for a while, Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX with Inteleon Quick Shooting. Now, this is a deck that a lot of players thought was going to do well at POG, the Pokemon Online Global Championships. Sure, it showed up a little bit, but it didn't necessarily steal the show. Most recently, Azul GG was able to win the Full Grip 1K in real life event with Rapid Strike Urshifu Inteleon. Now, that to me tells me there's got to be something going on with this deck. Well, post-rotation, there's no Mew from Unbroken Bonds with Bench Barrier. There's nothing that stops G-Max Rapid Flow from heading through to your opponent's bench. So this deck just becomes that much better. Now, it might struggle versus some Psychic-type Pokemon because you also lose Jirachi GX, but you always struggled against those Psychic-type Pokemon anyways. This deck has a lot of opportunity to see success nowadays, and just really focusing on being the best spread kind of powerhouse deck between Quick Shooting and Yoga Loop and G-Max Rapid Flow. The deck did gain a couple new tricks like Raihan. You did lose things like Karate Belt, but more or less we got the same core that was able to win the Players' Cup 4, the Players' Cup International, or Invitational, and just seeing success at some of these in real life and online tournaments. This deck really seems like it's of course, more of a metagame call like most of the other top decks are, but it seems incredible in this new format. Jumping into our number 3 spot, we see a bunch of Pokemon that aren't really shy from the spotlight. We got Zacian V Inteleon. Now, this deck is heavily based off of Peter Kika's top 8 list from the New Jersey 10K event. It was an in-real-life event. So a lot of players have been playing this deck and playing Peter's core. Now, I do want to say, like, there are a lot of Inteleon decks in our top 10, and I do want to let people know, if you haven't picked these cards up now, it seems like they're only going to go up in value. I don't want to be like, Zach told me to get these cards, and then they printed a League Battle deck or something. I'm just saying they're very important cards in our post-rotation meta so far, and I heavily encourage you to play with those cards. Don't go to any particular store. I mean, I think that if you're picking up codes, I think that PTCGO store and Potown store are both great, but I mean, feel free to pick up from your locals or however else it works. I understand how it goes. Zacian V is very powerful. 230 damage is great. And then pinging things with Inteleon is also great. This deck is more or less like, let's build up a big attacker, go for it. Sometimes you need Zamazenta V just to wall off a VMAX Pokemon, hit things with Inteleon, you are good to go. But this is just like an aggressive big basic Pokemon. We'll see how it goes. I think that Is this going to be the best way to play Zacian V, Zamazenta V? Maybe. I think that those cards are very good, but we'll see exactly what our post-rotation kind of format has in store. So, overall, I think this deck is awesome. It has some success behind it. Give it a whirl. Jumping into our number 2 spot, we have Duraludon VMAX Bronzong. Now, out of all of the new decks to play, this is my absolute favorite, where I'm just able to go ahead and hit hard with Duraludon VMAX. One of my favorite things about Duraludon VMAX is that it goes through anything with its attack. You hit a Decidueye deck, you are good to go. You hit a Zamazenta V, you are good to go. These are things that you don't necessarily have to worry about too much, but it is nice to be able to go through a Decidueye deck when you face it, have a built-in kind of defense against just random stuff that could happen. Now, Zacian V and Zamazenta V allow you to kind of just corner your opponent's decks either through the offensive ways or defensive ways. Bronzong allowing you to move your energies around. You got the Duraludon V that can get the Metal Saucer going up. And of course, your opponent's Pokemon with special energy cannot hit the Duraludon VMAX. If you haven't noticed already, there's a lot of decks that play Capture Energy and other things like that. Mainly Capture Energy. I'm going to say Capture Energy is a lot of decks. You could stop your opponent with Duraludon VMAX and really just sit there. Beyond that, I think Zamazenta V stops a lot of these VMAX decks. So between Special Energies, VMAX deck, Zacian V being a good attacker, having the Metal Core that we've seen success with ADP Zacian, seeing success with Luke Metal, this is the type of deck that just screams very good. There's very few decks that I think could scream very good compared to this, especially considering Duraludon VMAX has no weakness. But this deck is number 2 for right now, so there is one deck that I think will see a little bit more success than it. That being said, if there was a tournament tomorrow, I'd probably be playing this deck. Duraludon VMAX stole my heart. Maybe it's because I've always been a low-key, filthy Luke Metal fan, and this is kind of the new iteration of the deck. Other than that, I don't know. I think being part dragon, part skyscraper hotel is hilarious, and I'm all about it. And last, but certainly not least, we have Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. Now, I know for a lot of peeps who have been watching it, you're like, yo, Zach, you cover this deck all the time. Why do you think it's so good? Well, first and foremost, Underworld Door is one of the most absolute cracked abilities we've had in this game, where you're able to attach an extra energy from your hand, draw 2 cards. Those are 2 metrics that correlate very well with each other. Drawing energies, or drawing cards, attaching energies, very, very, very good. Having attacks that do extra damage for the amount of energies that you have in play, very, 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 very good. Having access to Alchemy VMAX to discharge those energies to do a lot of damage, extremely bonkers good. And of course, it does not end because you have Cresselia as a way. When this deck does not go first, you have access to Crescent Glow to attach extra energies going second. You have access to Galarian Articuno to accelerate energies into play. And then you could do 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. You have access to the new Shadow Rider Calyrex V promo. Yes, I play a 2-2 split in this deck. The reason why I play a 2-2 split in this deck is because the promo is great to deal with Zamazenta V, which is probably going to be a little bit more prominent in our post-rotation formats. Yeah, Luke Metal was its own deck. I think that Zamazenta V is just very good to get around things. You can't play Path to the Peak and Marshadow in this deck, peeps, so you don't have a way to get through Dauntless Shield. You gotta remember that. Beyond that, this deck really went with Training Court so you can get energies back, but it's really just its Path to the Peak kind of... You put it out to get over Path to the Peak. It's the trump card over Path to the Peak. So just playing 4 stadiums is better. People in the comments are going to be like, yo, where's your Pumpkaboo at? That's a dead space on your bench. So it's going to be really tough for you to get back your energy, or to get that space back. And you'd much rather be using a Crobat or getting extra energy with Galarian Articuno. So in the future, I think it could be cool. I think Pumpkaboo is not bad. You'd probably want to play with Scoop Up Net, and right now it's better to play for Training Court. Trust me on it, this deck is absolutely amazing. That being said, we'll see how this deck continuously does in this format. It's already had a lot of success at the New Jersey 10K event with Gabe Smart making top 8 with a similar list. I think that this deck has a lot of opportunities to see more success, and if it doesn't, I mean, it's certainly going to be a top 10 deck, so we'll see how that goes. And that's what we got going on today here, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at these top 10 post-rotation decks, and I mean, lots of great decks in there. probably going to see it change a lot. We haven't had too much data on the Limitless website. Just to go on with it, there's not too many post-rotation. I mean, heck, Evolving Skies has only been out for a week or two by the time this video is recorded, so it's one of those things where this list can always get more and more established, so I'm excited to see exactly what's going on. Later on tonight, I do have my Late Night Series event. Check that out if you haven't already. There's going to be a lot of Evolving Skies codes for the prize pool. And Objective Deck, check out objectivedeck.com if you haven't already. They've donated 4 gold level balls to the event. So lots of cool stuff going on. You can use one of these decks or one of your own homebrewed creations at that event. That being said, give this video a like if you watched it all the way through. Subscribe to the channel. I mean, come on, it's literally free to subscribe to the channel, and it really helped me out as a YouTube content creator. And let me know if you like any of these decks, what your favorite post-rotation deck is in the comment. Get back to all the comments really quickly, so check that out. That being said, I gotta go do some editing, and I'll catch up with everyone later. Have a great one. Peace. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's become a channel member. It's one of those things where I appreciate every single person who watches my videos, and I mean, that's really where it counts, but for the channel members, they've gone out of their way to financially support me, and I truly appreciate that gesture. It's one of those things when I started channel memberships up on my channel, and I just didn't know if anyone was ever going to do it, so I truly appreciate everyone taking the plunge, taking a leap of trust, and investing in me as a content creator. Truly makes a difference for me each and every month. If you haven't already thought about becoming a channel member, you might want to contribute to the channel, and I do put everything back into the channel to make it the best possible place to watch for Pokemon TCG content. Again, I truly appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Cheers. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video, and have yourself a great day. Thanks.